Meantime, this across the country, gun violence and protest erupting in cities all over the U.S. this past weekend. Joining us now to discuss, former DEA Special Ops agents Derek Maltz, also Charles Marino, a former U.S. Secret Service agent and former Homeland Security Department advisor. Guys, thanks for coming on today. Over the past few weeks and months even, we've seen several mass shootings events take place. There appeared to have been a lull for a time, but we saw it in Atlanta, in Boulder, most recently Indianapolis, Austin, Louisiana, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Derek, start us off. Why are we seeing this increase in crime right now?
Well, it all starts at the top, right? If you look at the border issues as an example, the VP Harris is in a bunker. She's in the Washington, D.C. bunker. They're not coming out. They're not talking about the violence. Look at the summer. Last summer was violence and looting and, innocent store owners, losing their life savings, and nobody said a word. They wanted to portray it as like peaceful protests, right? We all saw it on TV. There's nothing peaceful about throwing chemicals in police officers' faces, right? They leave the house every day to secure the public, to keep everyone safe. And now you have them getting away with it. So until there's accountability, until there's law and order, this is just going to continue, right? And so we have to get the leaders to come out and talk about it. Instead, they're turning their backs on police. And that's really disgusting because the police are quitting all over America. They're leaving, they're retiring, because they're sick and tired of the lack of support and the lack of respect when they're out there trying to secure all of us, keep us all safe. So I hope to see some leadership, but I don't really have too much optimism, unfortunately.
Yeah, you hear about all these NYPD retirements specifically, and also police officers across the nation retiring or not taking interest in joining the force. But Charles, we keep covering, tragically so, a mass shooting after another mass shooting. And again, it seemed to have stopped briefly during the height of the coronavirus pandemic, but now it's almost as though it's resuming. Why do you see this increase taking place right now?
Yeah, the common theme here is that we're finding guns in the wrong hands of people that shouldn't have them. If you look at Indianapolis, right, obviously the red flag law didn't work. You had somebody that was involved with local law enforcement interaction. In 2020, they were deemed to have mental health issues. A weapon was taken away. And now we find that this individual was able to get access to yet another weapon and cause wide destruction and death. 8 people killed in under 2 minutes. So we need to look at it that way. If you look at a place like Chicago, also with guns in the hands of the wrong people, criminals, what we're seeing in these major U.S. cities is we're seeing police not be allowed to police, right? And we're also seeing an increase in political rhetoric. I mean, look, we have Maxine Waters, a representative from California, making her way to Minnesota to cause for, making calls for more conflict with local law enforcement. I mean, this is just irresponsible. If this were me or the other guest or you, we'd all be thrown in jail for inciting a riot. So, everybody needs to kind of come together here, be on the same page. But really, you got to have the stomach to implement the policies that are actually going to work and allow law enforcement to do their jobs and work with the federal government to put together task forces in a place like Chicago and get those guns off the street.
Yeah, again, a 7-year-old who was shot while in the car seat in a McDonald's parking lot in Chicago. This is just one example. As you say, this inflammatory rhetoric that we keep seeing from, in this case, an elected official, Maxine Waters, but also I want to play this for our viewers. This was what was said on CNN's Chris Cuomo show, saying that the only way police reform will take place is if white kids start getting killed by police. Take a look.
You know what the answer is? You really do. You don't like it. I don't like it. It scares me. Shootings, gun laws, access to weapons. Oh, I know when they'll change. Your kids start getting killed. White people's kids start getting killed. Smoking that doobie that's actually legal probably in your state now, but they don't know what it was. And then the kid runs and it pop, 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 pop. Cop was justified. Why'd you run? Oh, he had a baseball game tonight. Huh. White kid, oh, big family, that house over there. Those start piling up. What is going on with these police?
Derek Maltz, your reaction to Chris Cuomo's statement there?
You know what? It's disgusting because that's part of the problem. Mainstream media is inciting violence, putting out the wrong messages. When law enforcement officers wake up every day, they go out to enforce the law. If people are not complying, if people are resisting arrest, the chances of getting hurt are going to increase. That's the bottom line. I mean, you see what's happening. I mean, it's a split-second decision that has to be made by these brave men and women on the front lines that are keeping us safe. So for national news, media personnel, or politicians to come out and make statements like that, it's very ignorant, and it's really insulting for all the men and women that are out there on the front lines. My heart goes out to them because, you know, I had a 28-year career in law enforcement. I loved every day. It was actually a high for me every day, knowing that I could save somebody's life by taking heroin off the street. I mean, look at what's going on now with heroin, right? 87,000 people have died from fentanyl, as an example, right? 87,000, that's 240 a day. You don't hear Chris Cuomo talking about that because it's going to all of a sudden, you know, go back to the border and the radical Biden border policies that's helping inflame and increase this massive death and destruction from fentanyl. But it's really, really ignorant, and CNN should be embarrassed by this guy. Maybe he should get together and give his brother some advice on how to treat people. That would be way more productive.
Yeah. Well, you wonder about the influence, of course, that these media figures can have over people like their viewers. I just want to show our viewers what's happening out west in places like Portland. We're seeing violence, protests turn rioting, quite frankly, when you've got buildings that are being burned. They're coming from this sort of anti-establishment, anti-police angle. Charles, you know, it makes you wonder, what are law enforcement able to do about this as we see these buildings growing? You know, you've got pretty sketchy people out there. You're not sure what group they're really coming from and how they keep getting away with stuff like this.
Well, we're seeing an evolution, right? I mean, we had to start somewhere to get to the point where we are now in these major U.S. cities. And that is, again, the stomach for the policies and to allow the police departments to do their work. The community policing, the broken windows theory, you know, in terms of small crimes lead to larger crimes. What you certainly don't do in places like Portland and Seattle and others is you don't give away half of your city to anarchists, where they prevent law enforcement from actually going in and patrolling the areas. I mean, these folks can't even get into certain areas of their own city to investigate murders that have occurred, driving regular citizens out. And it's just not possible to run and maintain social order when you don't allow your law enforcement to have access to the entire city. So this falls at the feet of the politicians. And one other thing I'll add, because it's very important, we're seeing a rather major increase of crimes and assaults and violence against police officers. And I'll tell you, that also lands at the feet of the politicians that have been calling for well over a year to defund, dismantle, call for the total abolition of law enforcement here in the United States. I mean, what you've done is you've attacked a profession of close to 1 million men and women. And now these people on the street, the citizens that wish to do them harm, already know that they don't have the backing of these people. And so why not attack them? Why follow their instructions?
You know, we saw it in Minneapolis over the weekend. Again, that drive-by shooting at 2 National Guardsmen. They were injured. You know, we see it play out. Obviously, this rhetoric, it only plays into that violence and tension as well. Charles Marino, Derek Maltz joining us live. We appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.